Hello everybody, welcome back to Inside Man United. My name is Rowan Brennan and this is the daily news for Saturday, October 28th. Coming up on this episode, we've got talk of Richard Arnold maybe stepping down or being cast aside as Manchester United CEO, with Sir Jim Ratcliffe already with someone in mind that's within the Ineos group who's had remarkable success with Juventus and PSG. Stan Collymore weighs in on his thoughts on Erik ten Hag's squad, his transfer strategy and what it means for his future at United and what Sir Jim Ratcliffe should be doing come the end of the season. We look ahead to injury updates for the Manchester derby, who is going to be coming back into defence and midfield to face what is probably going to be Manchester United's toughest game to date. And finally, a generational talent from Brazil, currently playing at Santos, has been heavily linked with United, and could he be a source of goals for the club in January? All that coming up. What's going on, everyone? Very good morning to you. And if you're in Ireland, it's a bank holiday weekend, so I hope you're gearing up to do something exciting or have already got a hangover, so congratulations. So yeah, just a few little bits and pieces to get through on this morning's news. Obviously, the big news being the United derby coming up, but there is still a lot to be covered with regards to transfer news, Richard Arnold, the CEO, and a few other little bits in between. So without further ado, let's get a look at these articles and kick things off. So first up, we have the wonderful Daily Mail. And yeah, an interesting article here on Richard Arnold expected to leave his role as Manchester United CEO if Sir Jim Ratcliffe's minority stake is approved. I think that's a case of when, not if, with ex-Juventus chief Jean-Claude Blanc under consideration to replace him. You might be asking, who the hell is Mr. Jean-Claude Blanc? Well, let me tell you. So just beforehand, Richard Arnold is expected to leave his role as United CEO should Sir Jim Ratcliffe be successful in landing a 25% stake, £1.4 billion purchase for 25%, giving a value of 5.6 million, or billion, should I say. So yeah, listen, the same guff being trotted out at the beginning of all these articles. So the Athletic report that it will lead to a personal shakeup, which would see Arnold leave his position. So they report that former Juventus CEO Jean-Claude Blanc, he took over Juventus after the Calcio scandals and basically had a 8, 9, 10-year period of total domination of Serie A, where Juventus essentially just won it every single year. And he was one of the key men responsible for that. So he... the man who currently oversees Ineos Sports' entire portfolio is already under consideration to replace Arnold. So he's already within the Ineos ecosystem, it would seem. He's gone on to do very impressive things with Juventus and PSG as well, kind of really helped in their marketing and turning it into one of the most illustrious brands in world football. Say what you like about PSG, but you know, a lot of clubs have been taken over with a lot of money and they still don't get the kind of the glitz and the glam that PSG were able to attract. Say what you like about the club, there's an awful lot of, you know, distasteful, gaudy kind of behavior coming out of that club, but anything positive that happened with PSG was typically as a direct result of what Mr. Jean-Claude Blanc was doing. So here it goes on to say Arnold has been with United since 2022, as the CEO, succeeding Ed Woodward. And Arnold is part of the 12-man board that will be there to ratify the deal to bring in Sir Jim Ratcliffe. But I think Richard Arnold is going to be one of those boys in the seat that is told what to do, as opposed to having a genuine opinion on what should be done. I think whatever way the Glazers feel it should go, there'll be a stern look at Richard, and yeah, that's the way you're fucking voting, pal. So I think that's how that's going to go. The Athletic report goes on to say that Arnold's future has been discussed during conversations about how things may change should Ratcliffe and his team take control with the football side of business. While United have not commented on what they describe as speculation, a boardroom shake-up feels inevitable. It kind of has to be. It seems that while the Glazers aren't taking a full step away from the club, while they will have their paws very much still in the club, I think they're interested in a club that makes money and does well. And I think they're maybe turning around to the truth that the way they've been doing things just has been insufficient, and they need to get people in that have a genuine interest in the culture of the club, trying to generate some sort of an identity, an ethos. And it feels to me that Ratcliffe, Brailsford, And certainly with Paul Mitchell coming in from Monaco, and then Jean-Claude Blanc, it does really, to me, feel like a very competent team with a hugely successful track record at other football clubs. Brailsford has had a very strong impact in, cycling, Formula One with Nice, who are really starting to kind of show the fruits of their labor over the last few years. And they're doing very well at the moment. So to me, this is a team of people that I would actually have a little bit of confidence in. So I'm kind of excited if Paul Mitchell, Jean-Claude Blanc come in. I think that's going to be a pretty potent mix. So yeah, they're just talking about the revenues here. Nothing too exceptional to get into there. So let's get into the genius that is Stan Collymore. So yeah, he's kind of stuck his oar in here with regards to the transfers. You know what? Not all of it's untrue. You can't say everything is untrue when it comes to criticism of United, because to be honest, a lot of it is due and is fair enough. So Stan Collymore has gone on to say that a lack of foresight in terms of the players brought in is to blame for the current malaise at Manchester United and Erik ten Hag. Anthony, Jadon Sancho, Casemiro, there hasn't been one Manchester United player that you would say has been a consistent 8 out of 10 over the past couple of seasons. To be honest, in Anthony and Sancho, for sure. Casemiro, that's bollocks. Last year, he was absolutely instrumental to the way United turned their fortunes around. He was absolutely critical. And I don't think, like, despite his performances this season, this kind of short-termism and kind of revision of history based on current form is absolute bollocks. Casemiro was... Listen, anyone that knows anything about football and doesn't have the Stan Collymore, Martin Keown, Danny Murphy, Chris Sutton, I hate United blinkers on, they will know that Casemiro last year was absolutely vital to United's turnaround in fortunes. So in terms of comparison with Liverpool, or in particular City, United's recruitment has been abysmal. Okay, yeah, Darwin Núñez and the other host of City players that have been binned when, Calvert Phillips, 50 million, hasn't barely played a game. And, these don't get spoken about because the team still does well, because they do have good transfers, but these teams still have a lot of shit transfers. Haaland comes in and does the job. I mean, United were in for Haaland. He wouldn't come. Grealish comes in and then Doku arrives. I don't see anyone at Manchester United that's anywhere near that level. Lisandro Martinez was fantastic last season. Casemiro was fantastic last season. Onana has just come in and, he's trying to find his feet. He made a few mistakes. But you know what? And I said this during the Copenhagen game. That penalty at the end of the match, De Gea doesn't save that penalty. And that's the difference for me between Onana and David De Gea. If David De Gea was faced with that penalty at the end of the match, that ball's in the back of the net. And that's what I put the difference down to, is that De Gea is great in moments in plenty of games, but when push came to shove, when we needed him to turn up to help us actually win trophies, when we were just at the finish line, whether it was in FA Cups, Europa Leagues, etc., when we were in the final stages of getting our hands on some silverware, De Gea would invariably be a standout in someone who let us down. I don't think Onana's going to be that guy. I think he has plenty more mistakes in him. But a couple of days ago for the Copenhagen game, he did what I believe De Gea wouldn't have been able to do in that exact situation. And you got to give him his credit on that one. So he goes on to say, if Ten Hag can get things right on the pitch before season's end, Collymore believes that'll be enough for Sir Jim to swing the axe if he can't get it right. That means Erik ten Hag is under major pressure, no doubt. I don't think at the moment he's got the kind of credibility he needs, having come from Ajax, to be able to survive a full season of mediocrity. Listen, with all the shite swirling around the club, I don't think he can be to blame. However, he does have a few players. Listen, Ten Hag has to take some blame, but you can't judge a manager trying to, throw glasses of water on an absolute bonfire. So I think we need to give him a fully fit squad and an ownership structure that is built for success, and not just a bunch of people trying to squeeze as much milk out of the cow before it dies. He got out of jail winning the Carabao Cup last season, but if Jim Ratcliffe comes in and is ruthless as he has been in his business dealings, then you're looking at who potentially could replace Ten Hag. This is all very knee-jerk, and I think it's frankly bollocks. Ten Hag completely overachieved last year. They should never have been in the top 4, given what he took over. Remember, Ranić, just before he took over, said this entire club needs open heart surgery. And he was right. It was an absolute dumpster fire. And United overachieved last year. Ten Hag said they did, and that's not trying to set expectations. So if he doesn't do it again the next year, he's already got his excuses in. United are in fucking chaos, and Ten Hag came into an absolute dumpster fire, and he did very well to do what he did last season. And I still think he needs to get rid of a few players. The ownership needs to change. I think he needs to get a bit of time. He needs a few seasons. Fergie needed seasons. Klopp needed seasons. Pep needed seasons. But everything's always magnified at United, and there's always a bunch of pundits sharpening their knives, getting ready to stick the boot into United when they're on the ground. And it happens all the fucking time. Martin Keown, Stan Collymore, Gabby Agbonlahor, and other people in that circle, they just completely shit on United all the time. They're obsessed with United. The Jadon Sancho saga has clearly damaged the player's reputation, but it's done nothing for the manager's credibility either. I think that's bullshit. Ten Hag's demeanor and personality isn't exactly endearing either. I don't think that's true. I think he's come across very well in interviews. He seems to be popular with a large swath of the players. So I think Stan Collymore can shove it up his arse, basically. For me, Jim Ratcliffe will probably look at it and go, I'll give him to the end of the season and see what he does. Well, obviously, I mean, if he finishes 16th, he's going to be gotten rid of. But I think if Ten Hag finishes top 6, given how well other teams are playing, there's 9 teams going for 4 spots, and there's 9 teams going for the other 2, so 6. And there's going to be very good, very decent teams that are going to miss out. I would give Ten Hag this season, and unless it's a complete shit show, I'd give him next season as well. I think he deserves that. So yeah, that's it from Stan Collymore. Not that I like listening to him, but it's always fun to just make fun of the absolute tripe that comes out of his mouth every now and again. So let's get on to injury news. Manchester Evening News here, going into some detail on who we can expect back potentially for the Manchester derby. So United now turning their attention to one of the biggest matches of the season, of course, blah, 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 on people who were recently out and playing. But let's get into the meat of this. Kobbie Mainoo, ankle injury. He just played 45 minutes in training there. He played his first football since his injury in July. He played 45 minutes at the Lake Sports Village. Appeared to get through the encounter without a hitch, setting him up nicely for a return to the first team soon. Whether he gets minutes at Manchester City remains to be seen. I don't know if that's a little bit too much of a big game for him to be coming back, having not played since July. I think it probably is. But either way, great to see him back. And hopefully he gets to make the bench. And maybe he could be called upon. Who knows? Casemiro, ankle injury. We know the Brazilian spent some time in South America recuperating from an ankle injury suffered on the international break. But he's back at Carrington. He is training. And I would be very confident that he is going to be taking part, if not from the very beginning. I think the reason why McTominay has started the last couple of games is he was keeping Casemiro nice and fit for this one, because be sure as God, Ten Hag's main thing with this match is do not get bent over. That's what it is. I don't think anyone in the right mind should expect, even though we're playing at home, that this Manchester City's team will not completely bend us over. We've struggled against the shittest teams in the league, whether it's Forest, Wolves, Sheffield Wednesday, or Sheffield United, Burnley. We've played all the bottom teams, and we have just fallen over the line with some of them. Palace, not doing too well there either. I mean, there's no way we can go into this game thinking that we can get something out of it. We could maybe scrape a draw. I mean, that there's optimists out there, but this to me is Ten Hag is going to make absolutely sure we don't get. I mean, I think he'd even accept a 1-0 defeat. Just don't get bent over 4 or 5-0. Nobody's expecting us to get anything from this game. Tyrell Malacia. Looks like he is going to be coming back in November. He seems to be pretty close. He returned to training on Monday prior to the Copenhagen clash, but he's still on an individual training plan, so he's not going to be back anytime soon. Ahmad, again, he's November. Luke Shaw, November. Wan-Bissaka, November. And Lissandro Martinez, January. So it looks like the only kind of real noticeable players that we're going to be getting back will be Casemiro, who could start. And Kobbie Mainoo, but I don't think he's going to be coming in to the conversation for this game. It's going to be a little bit too soon. I'm going to be doing a video with my team predictions and just a little bit of a match preview for the derby. And yeah, I think it's going to be Amrabat, Casemiro, and Bruno in the middle of the pitch. I do think he's going to want to keep things very, very tight. Rashford's going to start, even though he shouldn't. I believe actually Mason Mount should be given a go on the left. And I don't know who I'd put on the right. Maybe Garnacho. Could be a bit soon for Garnacho, but Anthony and Rashford, they sure as shit didn't do enough in the last game to convince me that they deserve to start this game. Maybe they'll get the first 45 minutes just to see. I'm really fearful it's going to be Rashford and Anthony starting this game, but that's what it's going to be like. I'm sure of it, but it shouldn't be. But anyway, let's see how it goes. And finally, I've covered this guy before, and there is a huge swell of excitement about this guy in Brazil. So the headline, Brazil finally have a generational striker talent to cherish, and Man United are head over heels. So for a long time, Brazil didn't just provide the world with some of the most enjoyable football to watch, but some of the greatest strikers to ever grace the game. Good article here on Planet Football, so check it out. So the player in question is Marcus Leonardo, born in Bahia. He moved to Sao Paulo at 14, and he's been in the Santos setup ever since. And he seems to be absolutely crushing it over there. An absolute belter of a striker. He can, apparently his ball striking ability and his aim with his shots is insane. He's got the tricky feet as well, bicycle kicks, close range goals, tap ins. He's got it all. 20 years of age, and he's been linked with a lot of the best teams in Europe at the moment. Roma are said to be interested, as are United, and obviously considering how desperate we are for goals at the moment. Yeah, it's one of those things. Combine all of that with the most I'm destined to be an all-timer footballer first and last name. All the signs point towards Leonardo being Brazil's next generational striker talent. Let's see. Aside from looking and sounding like the perfect player, what qualities does he actually possess? A great football IQ, 20 goals from 40 games throughout the 2023 season. He's already got 5 goals for Brazil at the Under-20 World Cup. And there's a little video here of him. So check it out by all means if you want to see some footage of this kid banging in some goals. Could he do it on a cold Wednesday night at the Power League? Yeah, probably could. In fairness, he seems to be that good, this kid. So a lot of excitement about him. And I've already covered this kid a few weeks back in another episode. United have been linked with this guy for a while, and it looks like he could be gotten for a reasonable kind of fee. I did do an episode yesterday linking us with Seru Gayassi or something, who is a Stuttgart striker, banged in 15 goals in 9 games so far in the Bundesliga. He's red hot. United need to bring in striking reinforcements in January. They absolutely do. Once all our defenders are back fit, I actually think we have enough cover in defence with Maguire, Johnny Evans, Mainu, Shaw, Malacia, Dalot, Wan-Bissaka, Varane. I mean, we've got plenty of defenders to get us through till the summer. I don't think we're going to be winning the league. I think it's just a matter of getting us into the top 4. United's big problem is goals. And with Sancho going to be out the door, Martial probably going to be out the door, and things going on with Greenwood. Anthony's not really scoring. United need firepower, and they're not going to have a huge amount of money to get, a top-class striker like a Kane or an Osimhen, someone like that. So getting a young lad here like Marcus Leonardo, I think, would be quite shrewd, and he could rotate quite well with Højlund, develop a little bit of competition. They could learn from each other. And I think it could be a really, really good option. So, yeah, he goes on to say, speaking to FIFA, seeing the ball in the back of the net is all that matters. Whether it's a wonder strike or a tap in, it's worth the same. Not scoring is the worst thing for a number 9. A centre forward has to score goals. A wise head on the shoulders of an already prolific 20-year-old. Be United, Roma, or someone else, whoever lands, Leonardo has a gem on their hands. So there seems to be a huge amount of excitement for this kid. I'd love to see us sign him. Anyone with a Brazilian background is always a reasonably decent bet. But, look at Anthony. So that's pretty much it for the news on Saturday. So that's it. That is a pretty concise roundup of all the biggest news articles for United on this Saturday, October 28th. If you're looking for other news, check out the episode from yesterday. We've gone into a few other little bits and pieces there. But what are your guys' thoughts on the appointment of the new director in Jean-Claude Blanc? I think that could be very, very interesting. I think that matchup with Paul Mitchell could be revolutionary for how this club is run with people that actually know what they're doing. Wouldn't that be refreshing? Any thoughts on Marcus Leonardo? Anyone know anything about this kid that I don't? Anyone seen him? What are your comments on this guy? Should we be going after someone more established like Victor Osimhen and waiting till the summer? Or would people be excited to see a young Brazilian, apparently generational talent, coming in to join the ranks of all the other young talented players in this United squad and to give Ten Hag years of a team that can grow and build together? I'm certainly quite excited by that. How would we like to see the team line up against City? Would you have Manu? Would you have him come in and play? So bad has Casemiro been this season. Would you just put Manu straight in? I think that might be a little unwise, but stranger things have happened. Would you be starting Amrabat? Who goes up front? Should Marcus be getting a game? I'm going to be doing an episode soon with a preview of what my lineup should be for that game. I'll do what I think Ten Hag is going to do, and then I'm going to say what I would do. Because I know so much more about the game than Erik Ten Hag. Thank you once again for joining in, everyone. A very good morning to you. I hope you all have a cracking weekend. As always, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification button. And if I don't see you before the match, enjoy the match, and I'll see you on the next one.